Okay, so when you get your system out of box, the default IP address is 192.168.1.2 to be able to access the GUI. When you access the GUI, you'll be brought right to our wizard. So you'll be able to install in either English, French, or Spanish from the wizard. Um, so for this session, we'll go on in English. And also just to mention, you can also exit the wizard. As soon as you select your preferred language, you can exit the wizard if you decide you want to configure manually. Okay, so this is the wizard's checklist. As you can see, the first ones are mandatory, but the last two here are optional. You could select whether you want to configure them or not. We'll keep them selected so we can go through them all. Okay, so the first page here in the wizard is the administrator's account. So this is just where you'll set your login ID, like username and password for the administrator. So
Rory, sorry to interrupt you. Is this interface valid with all the different models, or it's one specific model?
Okay. Yes, it'll look exactly like this with all of them.
Okay, thanks.
So I'll just put something simple here. Admin, it'll warn me that the password's a little too simple. Okay, so the next page here is setting date and time. As you can see, you can't really move forward unless you apply a date and time, but it should be synced with the proper time here. Otherwise, you can set it manually. You can select your time zone and country settings as well. So once you've hit apply, you're able to go forward. Obviously, your phone system requires a good time, so that's why we make you actually apply something before moving forward. All right, so the next page is the networking page. In the networking page, it's the LAN. We have the LAN here and the WAN. The LAN would be for ports 1, 2, and 3 on your 124. So, and then port 4 would be your WAN. We would suggest using us as the DHCP server, as it makes configuring your auto phone provisioning a little easier. That's not to say that you won't be able to use our auto phone provisioning feature. It just makes it a little easier. Otherwise, you'll have to go to the phones themselves and point to this to your device's IP address as the server to get your phone files. So let's say we enabled that. You can see you have your range and that here, so you could set that up for yourself if you want to change it up. And as for the WAN, if you're plugged into a network that has an existing DHCP server, you just hit auto discover. It'll actually fill out all the required information there. So you get your IP address, your subnet mask, default gateway, and DNS server. Otherwise, you can also fill it in manually. That's not a problem as well. Okay, so once you move forward here, you get to the user list. We have 3 users here by default. The first two, 6002 and 6003, are the analog users, so FXS1 and FXS2 are 6002 and 3 by default, and then we have 6005, which is just one SIP default user we created. Now you can you don't need to use these. You'll be able to delete them. It's optional. Let's say we add a user. This is all the information we require. So, and I'll go over why after we're outside of the wizard. So I'll be able to show you what our templates are about. So our templates allow us to ask for minimal information with many of our configuration settings, users being one of them. So if you wanted to add them one by one, you can do this. Otherwise, you could, we also have our template here. So if we were to click the template and we downloaded it, as you can see, it's a CSV file, so we can open it up in Excel. So I have already downloaded it, so you'll be able to see. Oops, sorry about that. It's, as you can see, we ask for the same information pretty much as the as what you saw when we were adding a user individually. So we ask for the extension, the first name, last name, the language you prefer. So if you prefer French, for example, that would mean your voicemail would be, the prompts would be in French. So at a user level, they can select their own language for their voicemail prompts. Otherwise, the global language of the system would be set in your system, in your PBX settings. And then here you have voicemail on or off, so whether you want that user to have voicemail or not, internal and external caller ID, whether you want that user to be in the name directory, their email address, and their cell phone number. So I'll go over why we ask for the email address and cell phone number, but they're tied into features that we have. So let's say you've done a little homework prior to going on site and installing, and you've got all the users and all the user information. You can plug it in here, and then once you, sorry about that. Once
Hey,
you
Rory,
get back
can I
to
ask
the
you a
user
quick
list,
question?
sure.
We noticed I know it's in a different field, but wouldn't it be easier if you're going to do MAC addresses to put it in that and upload everything all at once?
Yeah, when we get to the phones, I'll show you that's how we ask for that. But this is specifically configuring the user into our system, not the phone to the user.
The phones? Okay.
That's actually next, so you'll be able to see we do exactly as you suggested. So after you've filled out that template, you can simply browse and import the template, and it populate the table with all that information you've gathered. It's kind of a quick way to configure a user in our phone system.
So so if you have, let's say, 50 users, you can just fill out that template, and it will auto-populate and create all the extensions?
Exactly.
Okay, great.
So then, once we get to the next page, this is our configuring our phone list. So I'll show you how we attach them together. So we populated that table, assuming we populated that table with all those users there. We have one here, which is the default one, but this drop-down would be full of those users. So let's say this is one of those users. You'd simply select that user, enter the MAC address of the phone that they're going to use, the manufacturer and the model number, and that's it. So those users that you've configured will be tied into these phones, and that's how our auto phone provisioning works. Otherwise, if your manufacturer is not here, it doesn't mean that we won't be able to register the phone to the system. It just means we won't be able to use our auto phone provisioning feature. However, we do plan on adding more coverage to this list, so we plan on adding more manufacturers, more models. So the coverage will.
Which ones are you planning? Which ones are you planning to add next? As far as manufacturers.
We're planning to add more Polycom. There's at the moment we don't cover all the models, so we're planning to move forward with Polycom, and the next one I'm not sure.
How about GrandStream? Any ideas on the GrandStream products?
I'm not sure. That's a possibility. I can write that down and find out if you like.
Yeah, sure.
Do you have plans in on the Polycom VVXs? Is that what you're looking at, their current phones? Okay,
exactly.
Cool.
Rory, when you say it auto provisions as opposed to having to manually provision it, can you explain what that means?
What I mean, well, instead of manually registering your phone.
Yeah, when you you can put the MAC address and then the manufacturer in there, and this is, I mean, this is a time saver. But if you had to do it manually, what's the process, and are we talking about just a few minutes to do, or?
Well, you can do it one of two ways. If it's another manufacturer, you can select other here, and if you're familiar with building its that's phone-specific config files, when you select other, you'll have a place where you can upload those config files, and you can still provision the phone that way, or you can go into the phone's UI and specify the user's extension and password and the address of your phone system, and it'll be able to register like that.
And what are we talking about time-wise then? A 2-3 minute savings for the customer? Or for the programmer?
If you're using auto phone provisioning?
Correct.
Yeah, probably per phone.
Per user, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it goes pretty quick.
Thank you.
So the reason why it goes pretty quick is because we don't actually ask you to specify what you'd like on specific buttons. So let's say, for example, I'm gonna do a Yealink T28. I'll punch in the MAC address here, 1565115D05. Okay, and that'll automatically register my operator with this phone. We'll plug it in, and he or she will have a registered phone. But those buttons on the side are actually programmed with commonly used features, and basically you can come into the system afterwards and tweak a little bit. So the idea was to basically to get everything up and running as quickly as possible, and to do some minor tinkering after if needed.
So there's basically a default configuration for each phone, is what you're saying, as you program it on here, but not to say we couldn't go in and customize it after the fact.
Exactly, and even those default configurations for specific models, you can change those as well. So I'll show you that. We call them phone templates. So you can actually mix up what you'd like on specific buttons on those templates, so that going forward, if ever I configured another T28, it would have your specific desired configuration. Otherwise, you can just do some, minor tinkering after. All right, so let's say we do this. I actually have this phone over here, so you'll be able to see that that it'll be registered once we're through the wizard. So let's do this one. And just to say, this one also has the template feature, so similar to the user list, but you'll only see these 4 options here. So you'll specify the user, the MAC address, manufacturer, and model number, and you can import that as well to save a little time.
This auto provisioning is just for the phones that are connected to the LAN, right?
Yes. You can still use auto phone provisioning outside of that, but you won't be able to do it in the wizard.
Okay.
I can show you after, once we're outside of the wizard. All right. So the next section here is VoIP lines. So if you select Add here, as you can see, you can select your protocol. Your provider list is actually this list is actually growing, and if ever you want the coverage for your specific provider, you're going to be using it quite often, we can always add that as well. But just to show you an example, I have a BabyTel trunk here, so if I were to select BabyTel, you see it cuts down all the information it needs, it plugs it in for you, and the only thing it requires is the username and password.
I noticed on the drop-down menu you also have a company called Desmocom. Is that a Canadian company?
Yes, I believe that's in Montreal, actually.
Hey, Rory, once like with Byron there, they've got SOTEL. Once we do one, can we create our own drop-down and save that, or will those companies have to register with you guys?
You mean if you've created one VoIP line with SOTEL, if it'll be there going forward?
Right. Or do they have to register with you in order to be included in the drop down?
To be in this one specifically, yes, but outside of the wizard, like let's say you've done it one time here, outside of the wizard, once we're out of there, you'll see that there's a section where you go to VoIP trunks. You'll be able to see trunk templates. So in that trunk template, you'll be able to add one for this drop-down list. It's easier to explain outside, but
Okay.
to answer your question.
Okay, so SOTEL is not presently on the drop-down option on the current firmware of these switches, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, Jack, I'll work with our techs. We should be doing that directly with Positron. I thought that was already being completed, but either way.
All right. Thank you.
Rory, isn't it on the new firmware upgrade, though, that SOTEL's on there?
Yeah, sorry, let me just double check that. I was just about to say the exact same. We have recently upgraded our firmware. Actually, yes. Okay, sorry. We have the latest firmware here from last month has SOTEL added. Sorry. That's my bad. You are added.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
In the drop-down list. Okay, so but still, to answer your question, if ever there's another provider, just so everyone else knows, you'll be able to add that in the provider template section, and then you'll be visible here in the provider drop-down box.
Yeah,
so,
Desmocom is no longer operational, I believe. So.
They're not?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, that's good to know. Mark that down.
Like how we're all picking apart your drop-down option here.
No, I mean that's good information. I didn't know that,
yep.
So I'll look into that.
I don't think their I think their website is down, so I don't think they're around anymore.
Okay, we'll look into that for sure. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so I have a BabyTel trunk here, so I'll register that just so we can go through this as well. So the username is just the DID here. 664. All right, so that's it for the VoIP lines. You can add others if you like.
How do you know if the VoIP line is registered or not?
We're going to see it outside of the wizard. I'm going to show you the status screen is the first screen we'll see. Okay, so the next page is ring groups. So it might seem a little out of order, but we're just covering this feature first so that it's an option for incoming calls. So if we're to add a ring group, let's say, I don't know, extension that, and it's the support ring group. Okay, so support team at extension 6010 has this ring group, and as you can see, you have a ring time and strategy. Now they work together. So first I'll add a few users, and as you can see, as I add one, another drop-down box will appear. You can continuously add. And you can also add an external number if you like.
What is your definition of a ring group?
You're ringing a group of users together. So
okay.
Depending on the strategy, you can ring them all together, or you can ring them in order.
There's no option for like a round robin or least called or.
Yes, that we have the queues feature, call queues. So with that, you have round robin, the user with the least amount of calls, all those things. But we'll go over that as well, though. So the ring time and the strategy work together in this feature. If you're to ring in order, it'll ring 6002 for 30 seconds, 6003 for 30 seconds, 6005 for 30 seconds. If you're to ring them all at once, it'll ring them all for 30 seconds at the same time. Okay, and then once it's past that, if the phone call was not answered, you can hang up, send it to an IVR, or send it to a voicemail box. So let's say we send it to a voicemail box, and then the operator.
Is there a limit to the number of ring groups you can have?
No. No limit. You can create as many as you like. You can just keep hitting that add button and make as many as you like. Alright, so that's it for ring groups. Once we've gotten to the next section, it's incoming call rules here, so it's pretty straightforward. For the wizard anyways, there's a few more options for incoming and outgoing calls once we're outside of the wizard. But the wizard was made to be simple, so send all incoming analog calls too, so anything coming in off from the FXO. And then in your drop-down list here, you can see our support ring group. So that's why we had the ring group first, just so that it's selectable in this drop-down. So let's say all the analog calls go to the support ring group, and all the incoming digital calls go to. So we created that BabyTel trunk. Actually copied the DID when I placed it in for the username, so it's there. So send all those calls to, and then maybe you go to the sample IVR. Now, the sample IVR is an IVR that we've created by default, which is basically it's just a common setup, and it's made ready so that you can just work off of it instead of building an IVR from scratch. So we'll also go over the IVR shortly, but I just wanted to explain what the sample IVR was. So even if you were to send it to sample IVR here in the wizard, once we're outside of the wizard, we'll be able to tweak it to our liking and to customize it to our customers' needs. So we'll see it just outside the wizard. All right, so pretty straightforward for the incoming call rules. Once we're in the outgoing call rules, you can see here for the first table you have your caller ID name and number, and then for your emergency, we ask you what your emergency number is and how you'd like to route the call at any time. Okay. After that, the second table here, you can see we've set up analog with a prefix of 9 by default. So if you want to dial out analog, if you have something physically plugged in and you're configuring that, this is what we have by default, so that anytime you're going out analog, it'll be prefixed with 9, but you can edit that and put whatever prefix you want, or even remove it. Okay, and then as you can see, we have failovers, so the following lines will be tried in order, so you can try analog, and then if you've added anything else other than the BabyTel, you can continue going to a third.
Now, if this box was equipped to accept a PRI, you'd have that in the drop-down menu as well.
Absolutely. Okay. That'll be an option as well.
Okay.
Okay. So then, if you wanted to add something as well for, let's say, if there's no prefix, it'll go out of BabyTel, for example. So user has the option. Maybe one of them's for long distance, one of them's not. So again, pretty simple and straightforward for the outgoing call rules, but there are a few more things that you can do outside of the wizard with incoming and outgoing call rules, and we'll go over them as well. All right, so the next page is remote offices. Now, if you recall, this was our first selectable in the checklist of our wizard. So if we were to click add here, well, basically what a remote office is for us is if you have more than one positron device and you want to connect them together so that you can have inter-office calls between the two devices, you can do so using remote office, and that'll create a trunk between the two. Now, you'd have to create this on both ends, so the other positron device would actually have to have a remote office connecting to this one, as well as this one connecting to that one. Okay,
how many can you connect together?
You can connect up to 9.
Okay.
Hey, Rory, quick question on that. Can you have one main box be the mail server, or does everybody have, each box has to take care of its own routing or voicemails?
Yeah, each box has to take care of their own.
Thank you.
What would you recommend if there's more than 9 remote sites?
We
maybe centralize off one of the larger gateways you have.
See, because the way it's set up is at the bottom here, as you can see, remote branch extensions start with. So we actually do them. We actually point to the system and say, like, the remote office calls from extensions will start with, let's say, you know, on this side it's 6,000. Let's say on their side it's 5,000, followed by 3 digits. So it's, you know, in the 5,000 range. So that's how we point to. That's how we point to the extensions over there, and that's why I say 9, because there's 9 in the drop down.
Okay, so quick question. In other words, if branch 1, all their extensions are in the 200 series, branch 2 has to have a different series?
Yes, exactly.
So the branch 2 would have to have like 300s, branch 4 would have to have 400s, and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, so you can, so we'll just, the example I always use is, let's say, you know, where Montreal is, or we have one in Canada here connecting to the U.S., so I'll call this one, I'm connecting to the positron in U.S. So you can enter either just simply the IP address or IP address with a password. The other side would obviously have to do the same and match up the password.
Okay, so they'd have to have a static IP address.
Yeah.
The other end.
Yep.
How about if the guy or the other user doesn't have a static IP? Is there any way of doing like a DDNS type of connection?
Yeah, I believe we've had a few customers who have done that. Yeah.
But you wouldn't be able to do it through the wizard, right? You'd have to do it manually or something.
Yeah, you would have to wait until you get outside the wizard and then do it manually.
I see. Okay.
So you can always like uncheck this box on the wizard and then do it manually outside it, or on the.
So because some locals are not able to get broadband connections with static IPs, so that's why I was inquiring about that.
Okay. Yeah. No, I understand. Okay, so that's it for remote office. The next selectable in the checklist was voicemail, so we selected it. Now to make sure that it's enabled, as you can see here, it's disabled by default. So we've selected to configure it. Now to make sure it's enabled, you'll have to select some kind of external media that you're going to save your voicemail to. You won't see Compact Flash here as an option. I have a testing unit, so it's available there for me, but you will see USB, and you'll also see if it's a new USB that's not formatted yet. As you can see here, there's like a message in brackets, so that's how we display our messages. It'll say not formatted next to USB. So if we select USB, and it's not formatted, right next to the refresh button, we'll have a format button here ready for you. So you'll be able to hit the format button and format it right here in the wizard. All right, so after you format it, it'll say it's formatted, everything's good. You refresh, and it'll get rid of the message that says not formatted. It'll just simply say USB like you see here. Okay, so then the other option here is the voicemail to email option that we have. So if you want to send voicemail to email, you'll have to enable it and then put in your SMTP settings here. So we use Google. I mean, just about anything will work here. We just need a server to be able to send out the emails so that so you get the notifications. Now,
hey Rory, quick question.
Yeah.
Hey, back to that USB. Is it still? I thought I read somewhere if you go over 32, 64 gigs, you have to format it yourself, or did you guys fix that? I thought I read something if it's too big.
You don't have to. You can still format it here in the wizard. We just suggest to because it might take a little while, a little longer than you want to wait. So it's not that it won't work. Not that it won't format inside the wizard. It might just take a little time. That's all.
So there is no storage capability in the box itself. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah. Well, there is. What we're suggesting is that you send everything or save everything on USB because, well, obviously you don't want to fill up the storage on the.
So the unit it's not going to rewrite any older stuff if it runs out of space, type of thing. Or?
It will rewrite older stuff if it runs out of space, and it rotates everything. So yes, it will. But if you're sending it to USB, for example, then there won't be an issue there.
Now, what's the storage capacity of the boxes? 3,000 minutes, 4,000 minutes. Any idea?
By minutes, to be able to, you mean if you're saving voicemail on the system itself instead of USB?
Yes, correct.
Well, we definitely suggest saving it to USB, but if it's in minutes, I'd have to check that up for you. Maybe I could look it up and get back to you. Is that all right?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, and I can't see who's speaking at the moment. Can you just tell me who this is?
Oh, this is Tasso.
Tasso, okay. No problem, Tasso. I'll take a look for you.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, so yeah, and we'll see that this feature, voicemail to email, you have a few options. So you'll be able to send either just a notification saying, hey, you have a message waiting, or you can send a notification saying you have a message waiting, here it is if you want to listen to it. So you'll be able to, listen to your voicemails from your cell phone or wherever you want.
Okay, so the recording is actually sent with the email as an attachment, correct?
You have the option to do that. So you can either do that or just send the notification saying you have you have a voicemail, and then they can go listen to it. Either or. Okay, so that was our second selectable in the checklist, and that actually concludes the wizard. The wizard takes about 2 minutes once you've hit apply to apply all those configuration changes. So now that we've gone through the wizard, I'll be able to show you as soon as we're outside it there on the status screen. The status screen will be the first thing we see after logging back in. That our trunks should be registered, our phones should be registered, and I'll be able to show you the status of our USB, our network, and other things. But otherwise, Patrice, if you'd like to add anything, or if anybody has any questions, now's a good time.
Well, actually, yeah. So what did you guys think of the Wizard? I mean, there's a lot of great questions there, but you saw how easy it is to actually get the system up and running.
They didn't like him. It didn't have a wand.
It didn't have a wand? I'll put that, Rory will put that down for you.
Patrice, Jack.
What?
Byron. Hey, is there anything in that Wizard that you can't do in the other section that we're about ready to go, or it really should be done right here before you go any further?
That's actually a Rory question, and I honestly would say that the Wizard is the easiest way to just pull the system up, and then you make your tweaks outside of the Wizard.
Yeah, that'd
Rory,
be a good answer. I mean, there are some things that you could configure outside of the Wizard, like we have some features. There's quite a few features that you'll be able to.
The question is, is there anything in the Wizard
that's mandatory that you can't put anywhere else?
So that you mean that you have to configure it, and it can only be configured in the Wizard?
Right. Yeah. Is there something? Right. That's the question. Is there anything what's in the Wizard that you can't configure anywhere else?
You can all those things that we've configured are also available if you log in as the administrator.
Okay.
So
thank you.
So yeah, that's why we had the option at the beginning there to just exit out of the Wizard. If we didn't want to actually use the Wizard, you can exit out of it and configure from scratch. So all those things there would be available to the administrator.
Thank you.
What are your recommendations for over 9 sites? You know, if we're looking at 15, 20 sites, is this not a good phone system for them, or do you recommend, condensing the sites, onto what your G600, I believe, was the server, or?
Then you can get VPNs with that and actually hook them up that way. If you're going to do remote offices, correct? Rory?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
I'm confirming that basically with if you want to have like 10 to 15 sites connected, I mean, getting a 600 and actually using a VPN on some of the sites, wouldn't that work, Rory, and just hooking up 9 units and then having VPNs the other 5?
Can you just give me a moment? Let me check something. Just one moment, please.
How many users does the G600 support?
It supports up to 250.
Okay. Do you have anything larger?
No, the G600 is the one, that's the one that supports up to 250, but you can actually piggyback them as well. So if you have a larger site, you can get up to 500.
And just network them together?
Yeah.
Patrice, when you say 250 users, or is that 250 simultaneous conversations? You can have as many users as you want, but you're limited by call channels? Is that how you limit?
Well, no, the 250 is going to be the endpoints. That's actually going to be the telephone sets themselves that can be hooked up to the system.
Right.
And then with the G600, actually, if you compact it, you can actually have up to, I think it's 192 simultaneous calls on it. So you're pretty close to a 1-to-1 ratio with it.
Is that the same on the smaller ones, like the 1212s that we're running? Just how many? What's the max users?
Okay, the 1212, the 320, and the 124, they can have up to 60 endpoints on them, which would be the telephone sets themselves.
Okay.
And then the G1212 and the 124 does 16 simultaneous calls. The difference between the 124 and the 1212 is the number of FXO ports they can actually take.
Right.
So
now, when you say, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
When you say 16 simultaneous calls, is that including outbound and internal calls?
No, internal calls, extension and extensions do not take a port, so you could do that all you want. But it is going to count as an outbound or an incoming call. It's taking up the channel.
Okay, so that answers my question. So meaning that it can be an external call, an inbound call, or an internal call. That counts as a user, right?
No, the internal, you're talking dialing extension to extension?
Correct.
That does not count. You
it
could
doesn't.
do that without without taking up a SIP line or taking up taking up one of your channels.
Okay, so basically, if I have 50 users and they have a system that can handle 16 simultaneous calls, if 16 users receive calls and another 16 in the office are calling each other, that won't affect the maximum users, correct? Or the maximum.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Yeah, that wouldn't affect it in any way.
Okay, fantastic.
And that's the one thing that's actually really good about the system, like with remote offices, because if I actually call my extension to say, because I'm home based, and I call up to Rory and use his extension, I'm not using a line up.
Okay.
I'm still going through the system without using a line.
Okay.
And what is the user experience on that 17th call channel being used? Is it busy or it's dead, or how does that work?
They'll actually get a message that says all circuits are busy.
Okay.
And
Sorry
that's
for
when
the
it
wait,
comes
everyone.
into actually knowing what the customer needs are, because the people out there that have T1s, they have 25 phones hooked up, and they have if they have a T1 hooked up to it. I mean, it just depends on what kind of company it is, what system you're going to want to sell to it.
Okay.
Because you can go to the 600 and then you compress it and it gets 192 calls, so they can grow with it. And I think if I'm not mistaken, are we not working on trying to get something in the middle there?
Of the G600 and the 124 1212?
Yes.
Yeah, to get something in the middle, yeah. And we're also, as I understand, we're also trying to upgrade the hardware on the 124 and 1212. So if that's the case, I mean, that'll obviously open the door to more feature possibilities, and as well as amounts of simultaneous calls that can be handled. And just to answer, sorry for the wait there, but I just wanted to confirm, but for the remote office question, if we're to go over 9, a way you can do it is, let's say you've specified, 9 remote sites that are in the 9,000s. Well, then you can do like maybe the other 9 remote sites, or the next 9 remote sites in the hundreds, so that you can do like 2 followed by 3 digits, or 2 followed by 2 digits. But if you were to go over 9, we'd suggest using the G600 as you asked in your question. So to answer that part, yes, we definitely suggest moving on to the G600 if you're to go over 9.
But you'd have to have G600s at each location?
If you're going over 9 remote places, yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, if it's 9 or under, then all those remote locations can be 124s or 1212s or whatever you're using.
Okay.
And you can intermix them too, based on size?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have to, Rory? Do you have to physically have a positron unit at each site, or would it be possible to have like a 600 residing in a data center and hanging SIP endpoints off of that? Does that make sense?
So to have remote users at the location, but having the 600 at a data center?
Yeah. So if I'm dealing with one company, but they have multiple locations, and could the unit reside at their data center and just connect up, all their locations connect up to the G600 at the data center?
Technically, you can.
Wouldn't it be at that point, Rory, getting a VPN involved?
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking about.
I mean, you just treat them as a remote user, essentially, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Technically, you can. That's why I'm saying technically you can. G600 would be the good system to do it with. Yeah, I don't see a problem.
Can you have remote users on like the G1212s or 1220
yes.
or 124s? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, VPN can be a bit of a pain, so we prefer to just treat them as remote users.
Yeah, I'll definitely go over that as well. But it's just specified in the user's template whether he's a remote user or not. So when we get into that, I'm going to log in here, and we'll go over a lot of other features that we didn't get to see in the administrators. This would be in the administrators login here from the command center, and we'll go over the user template so you'll be able to see the remote users options and the rest of it. Everybody all right with that?
Yep.
Sure.
All right, great. So this is just the login ID that we placed in the wizard earlier. So that's the administrator's ID that you'll use going forward to log in. Otherwise, you can also log in as a user, which we'll cover right after logging in as an administrator. And the user will actually have a couple of things that he or she can configure as well. So we'll take a look at that too. So again, you have the option of programming in whatever language you want. So we'll stick to English, but it's available. So the first screen, as I mentioned, is a status screen.
Rory, quick question on the language. Can you have multilingual mailboxes? So if you have some Spanish-speaking people that want to switch back and forth?
Switch back and forth, yes. But they'll have to switch back and forth manually themselves. So first to answer your question, the mailboxes can be in a different language while your complete system is on another. So
right.
All the prompts can be in whatever language he or she chooses. And they can record also something manually themselves too. But otherwise, they can select the prompt language that they want when they log into their user with their user ID and information.
And would that be the same for the IVR or auto attendant, where you'd have one English or press something for another language, and you could record another prompt? Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. No problem. So once we log in, you're brought right to the status screen here. And as you can see, we have our BabyTel trunk is up and registered here. In the VoIP table, in the phones table, that phone that we had set up with the MAC address and the manufacturer and model number with our auto phone provisioning feature, so that's registered as well. The lines, I don't actually have any physical lines plugged in. Had I had them plugged in, obviously it would not say no link. And these buttons, these lights here actually change colors as well, so you can see those buttons change colors.
So typically the colors would be green if the lines were active?
Yes, if they're active, they're green.
Okay.
And the networking table, you have the your LAN info and WAN info right underneath. Your system table, you have the firmware and configuration version. So important if you're looking to upgrade and you want to know if you're on the latest firmware. We'll go over that right in the upgrade section shortly. The uptime, so this is how long your system has been up for. The total memory of your system and disk space on your system. Okay, so then and then in the table just below, it's the storage section. Again, you won't see compact flash; it won't be available for you. I have a testing unit, so but you will see the USB you have plugged in, or if you have a G600, it'll be SATA in that case. Okay, so this is these are the tabs that we'll go through. This is the status tab, so meaning this is the status of specific queues. So I'm going to cover the actual feature first, and we'll circle back to this in a moment. Okay, so if we go to diagnostics and we hit the diagnostics section here, the first tab is networking tab. So all these tabs here are a few tools that are available to you. The first one is a couple of networking tools. So we have just a simple pinging tool here, so you can ping out, see if you can ping out. But right underneath we have actually a packet capturing tool, so which is pretty useful. So if you're to select to use it, you can select on what interface or all interfaces, specify an IP address and protocol as well, all TCP or UDP. And once you stop it, it'll start capturing the packets. Stop it, it'll stop capturing the packets. Download it, it'll download as a PCAP, so you can actually open it up in Wireshark and take a look. Okay, so pretty useful tool. The next one is console. So this is everything happening in the back end of your phone system. These phone systems are Astros-based, so you'll be able to, if you're familiar with Astros, you'll be able to see that. You can download that as well. And if you are familiar with Astros, you can place Astros commands in here and execute them, so you can see their output below. Let's say zip show peers, for example, and you'll be able to see the output below. Okay, so there's a few tools available to you. The section below diagnostics, the logs. We have quite a few logs here. So the GUI log, PBX log, syslog, email log, event log, web server log, and even the DHCP leases that we give out if you're the acting DHCP server. So, and also you'll notice the latest entry will be at the top, not at the bottom, so you don't have to scroll down to see that. And they're not live, but you can refresh, and you'll get the newest entry as you hit refresh. And you can also download them as well. So at times, maybe if you have an issue, support team might ask you for a specific log, so you'll be able to download them from here, and we'll be able to use them from there. Next section here is the system, or sorry, the next tab is the system tab. The administrator's account we got to see in the wizard, so this is just if you want to change up your username and password here, you can do so. Next section is the maintenance section. So we did get to see the where we can set the date and time. So you can switch that up here. You can change the time zone as well, and tinker with any date and time settings you need. And the next tab would be the firmware upgrade tab. So here's where you'd be able to upgrade your system. So you can do it by HTTP or by local. So I'll show you how to do both. First, you'd want to go to our website. So I'll go right to positrontelecom.com. You go to our partner portal. And for anybody who's not set up with the partner portal, Patrice will be able to help you out. But otherwise, once you've logged into the partner portal, you have access to a few different things, like application notes for specific configuration that you're looking for. If you don't want to go through a complete manual, you want, specific configuration like how to configure an IVR, for example, you can just go here and grab that application note. Okay, brochures and data sheets on every device, frequently asked questions, language packs and firmwares. So we're going to come back here. We have manuals and guides, partner certification, partner program, PC console, which is an application we use for click to transfer and that, presentations and more. Okay,
hey, Rory,
so
quick question.
Sure.
Sorry. On the partner certification, do you have any amount of time where you have to be certified, or can you not be certified and get support with you guys? What's your thoughts on being certified?
Here, I can answer that, Rory.
Sure.
Is that okay? You don't have to be certified, but since you're already going through the class, we would actually like you to be certified.
Okay.
Because you're taking the class, so, and I can, your RMA, whoever your manager, your sales manager is, they can help you with it if you have questions on it while you're taking the test.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sorry. Go ahead, Rory.
No worries. Okay, so we're looking for firmware, so let's click on that section here. So we'll go over to the 124, and you can verify the version here. If you recall, in our system table, in our system screen, we had a place where we can take a look in the table where it had our firmware version, so we'd be able to match that up here by clicking version, see if we have the latest. So we didn't actually have the latest. This is a later firmware. So what you can do is you can take a look at the changelog. You can see if what applies here interests you. So if we have a couple feature changes for this firmware. So for the people at SOTEL, they'd obviously probably want to upgrade so they can have their SOTEL trunk support in there. But otherwise, we've also added support for the new Yealink phones too. But sometimes we'll add a bug fix or things of that nature. So you can take a look at the changelog, see if it's worth the upgrade for yourself, and if you decide to upgrade, great. All you have to do is, first you can either right-click and copy the link location, and then paste it right in here. Hit upgrade, or instead you can left-click it and download it to your local PC. Once you've done so, you can browse for it, upload it to the phone system, and then upgrade that way. Both ways will take about 2 minutes time after you hit the upgrade button. So approximately the same amount of time as it did to configure your the changes you did in the wizard.
Now, once it reboots, is it offline? Do users, lose their? I mean, do the users go offline for a couple minutes, or is this not circumspecting?
They'll go offline for a couple minutes, so you probably want to do it during downtime.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
No problem. But yeah, all the other, besides that, all the configuration changes you've done to the phone system, I mean, obviously those will stick. Those will still be there. You'll have no issues after upgrading. You'll be up and running with the same configuration changes you've done. Just the added features or bug changes or whatever applies to that upgrade. All right, so the next tab here is reset to defaults. So we have two ways you can reset the system to defaults. You can do a soft or hard reset. Now both of them erase everything on the system and reset it to defaults. The only difference between the two is a soft reset will hold on to all the backups you have on the system. Okay, whereas a hard reset will delete the backups as well. So that's the only difference between the two. Soft reset will hold all the backups. All right, so for backups here, pretty simple. If you want to create a backup, you can just hit the backup tab. You come over here and call it whatever you like. I think it's the 11th today. Hit backup. Takes 2 seconds, and it'll grab all your configuration, throw it into a tarball, and you can download it from there, load to your local PC, save it do whatever you like, or they can you can continue to save them to the system, and that's why we offer the soft reset. So even at the worst case, if you can still hold all these backups, even if you've reset your system to defaults. You can also restore any of the old configurations you had in place, prior to the one you just made. So if ever you made some configuration changes, you didn't like them, hit restore, you'll go right back to where you were before. All right. So, and you can also, if you happen to have one that you downloaded that you want to upload to your system, you can do that as well. Just browse, upload, and then restore. Okay, so it's as simple as that. And when you hit restore, again, it takes about somewhere around 2 minutes, like it does with a firmware upgrade or applying all the configuration changes from a wizard. So, pretty quick.
Hey, Rory, on that?
Yep.
Is there ever going to be, is it in the works for scheduling auto backups?
Yes, actually, we just went over that last week in a meeting. So, and that was one of the bullets. So, it's definitely in the works.
Thank you.
No problem. Storage is the next tab here. Again, you won't see compact flash, but if you didn't get to plug in a USB while you were going through the wizard and you want to add one after, that's not a problem. Or if you're adding a new one, you can do that as well. You just hit the storage section, you hit the maintenance section, hit the storage tab. You format it from here. You can test the unit after formatting and see if you get a successful test, so you know you got good connection there. And then the USB will be available to save to. All right, so just a simple formatter. Next tab is the logs tab. So, excuse me. Here's where you'll be able to specify what you want going to USB. So CDR, so call detail records, if you want them to go to USB, okay, or disabled. Recordings, same thing, if you want them to go to USB. Voicemail, email, log, GUI log, and web server log, those will all be optional to go to USB. So just to mention, as you can see here, by default, recordings are disabled by default. So if you want to be able to record phone calls, you'll have to enable that. So send it somewhere to be able to record calls. All right, and you won't be able to save them on the system. You have to send them somewhere. Voicemail was also disabled by default, if you recall, but we set it up in the wizard. So if you remember, when we got to that section, it said disabled by default, and then we had to choose USB, which we had to format. So same idea here. So if you would have actually exited that wizard, you'd see disabled here by default. But since we went through that configuration and we enabled it, that's why it's enabled right now. All right, so recordings and voicemail are disabled by default, so you'll have to send them somewhere to be able to use the feature. Okay, the dial-in tab might not be useful to anyone here, but I'll mention it anyways, just in case. There are some places that have a hard time finding high-speed internet. Okay, so this is for dial-up. If you still want to connect to your system remotely and you're using a dial-up connection, we still even offer that as well. However, we only support one USB device. The USB device, I don't remember offhand the model number, but it is specified in our manual. So if you want to be able to remotely connect to your device, you'd still be able to do that. You plug in this. You plug in the modem to your USB port on your device, on your G124 or G1212, whatever, and you'd be able to, from a PC, dial in and remotely connect. Okay, so that's an option. I'm not sure if, as I said, I'm not sure it's useful for anyone, but we have it. All right. So the networking section, there are some things here that we didn't get to see in the wizard that I'd like to cover. The first tab here, network, we did get to see, just the layout was a little different. So if you want to change up anything, you can. DHCP we saw as well, we have it enabled. Again, if you want to change anything, you can. SMTP, same thing. But we did not get to see the firewall, so I will cover that in the rest of the tabs going forward. So if you, the first checkbox is for DMZ. Second checkbox, if you want, for example, if you want to be able to remotely connect using SSH, you'd have to have this checked off, so to let it through the firewall. So a good example we can use is sometimes on occasion, if you're having an issue, our support team might want to connect to the phone system via SSH, so you'd actually have to have this enabled, so we can do so remotely. HTTP, same thing, so if you want to connect to your phone system remotely via the GUI here, you'll have to have HTTP enabled. SIP and IAX would be for remote users. So if you want to have remote users of any kind, you'll have to have those enabled depending on which which protocol you're going to use. The block IP tab here, this is a nice feature we have that basically, well, we know there's hackers out there to try to get free anything. So what they do here is they try to actually register a user to be able to make any kind of outgoing calls, long distance or not. And so how this feature works is if they've had 3 failed attempts at trying to log into any specific extension, they'll be placed in the block IP section here below. Okay, so and also the other thing is if you notice any kind of activity yourself, you can even block that IP address or a specific range yourself by adding them here in this table, and then you can also do this the same in permit networks. So if you know you're going to have a remote user, excuse me, you're going to have a remote user at X IP address, you can enter it in there just to be safe. Just to mention that that's a permitted address to register to this phone system. All right, so nice feature to have here. SIP RTP section here. Your SIP external IP, you can get that simply by clicking the SIP external IP button there. And then these port ranges, you want to make sure that if you register a remote user, that anything standing between, so any firewall, you want to have those ports open. So anything standing between the positron device and your remote user, you'll have to have those ports open. All right. Services here, you can actually shut off services altogether. So if you have, if you don't want SSH to be running at all on your phone system, you can stop it. PNP and MDNS are basically we are used with our phones. So if you're only provisioning a specific manufacturer, you can disable the other. That's up to you. And then the port, you can change the port that you're actually logging into. Let's say you changed it to 90. You can just put a :90 90 here after, and you'll be able to log in using a different HTTP port. Okay. So that's it for that section, but there's a couple more network-related features here. So IP routes, if you have different subnets, you can add them here. All right. The 3G here. Well, 3G, we have one model that we support at the moment. We're looking to add more coverage. I believe the States would be our next target. So basically, for anybody who might not be familiar, there's 3G sticks with that are USB that you can actually plug into a PC and things like that to be able to get access to the internet using 3G. So you can actually plug that into our phone system and access the internet. That way, your SIP trunks are registered and all that, and your phone system's still up and running. So you can use it in two ways. Obviously, it could be expensive, but sometimes it could be useful. So we call that a mobile PBX. So two examples I like to use is, let's say you have a construction site. Construction site wants to have a phone system, has no access to the internet. They can still have access this way. All they'd need is a power source, plug in the PBX, plug in that 3G stick to the phone system, and they're still connected to the internet. They still got their VoIP trunk up, and they can still make calls and that. The other example is, we have natural disasters all the time, and sometimes people are left without phones. So in that case, it's a good option as well. Otherwise, you can also use it as a failover. So if you have, if your internet goes down, your internet service provider goes down, you can use the 3G as a failover. Because that's why you're always connected to the internet regardless. Okay, so that's it for 3G. The next section here is CDR. So we'll just cover the CDR, the recordings, and restart here, and then we'll leave it open for a couple questions, or if Patrice wants to add anything. So CDR to start. The USB I used didn't have the option to format because it had all this information on here, so that's why I didn't want to put in a fresh USB. I want to have something here that carried some call detail records and things like that. So as you can see here, we had a couple on this USB. So again, the latest entry will always be at the top. You can filter by disposition, so whether the phone was answered, not answered, whether it's busy, whether it's failed. And as you can see here at the top, it's also got it has its specific sections. The start time, whether the call was incoming or outgoing, the source, the destination, the duration of the call, and the billable time, and the disposition. And even outside of this, we have a call accounting tool that you'll be able to actually add custom sections to these CDRs, so which we'll see as well. Now I know there's some companies that like to do reporting. Sorry, you can do so with this. You'll be able to download it, open it up in Excel, and filter it as you wish, and do your reportings or do your reports. Sorry, with that. You can also search for specific entries if you want as well. Next section is recordings here. I don't have a recording on the USB, and it'll probably be easier to see how this table works with users, as it's a little more user-friendly with users and a little more technical for the administrator. But basically what you'll see here is when you have recordings, you'll be able to select by date, and you'll be able to see every single extension that have recorded anything. So and you'll be able to delete specific entries. You'll be able to delete an entire day's worth, or delete all the recordings altogether. You can also listen to your recordings from here, so you'll be able to download and it'll open automatically for you, so you can listen to a recording. But whereas a user will only see his or her own recordings, but you'll see that they have, it's a little more user-friendly for them. They have like drop-down lists to select a date and that, so we'll get to see that as well. And then here we just have a restart, so this is just to do a system restart if ever you're asked for it. So if ever you select something new to go to USB to create those links, sometimes the system will ask you, okay, just apply configuration, restart the system so that it can create the links for the USB. So this is where you'd restart the system, just a system restart. Okay, so we'll cover the PBX tab next, and then we'll go over the user's login, and we'll wrap it up. But for the time being, if anybody has any questions, or Patrice, if you'd like to add anything, please feel free.
Hey, Patrice, Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Hey, I know we might get to it. Every time you make a change, do you have to reapply the configuration? Like if you change user settings? When do you always?
You do have to always apply configuration, but that's like if you have 10 changes to make, you don't have to change one, apply configuration, change another, apply configuration. You can do all the changes and then apply the configuration. So basically just save, and then once you finish everything you want to do, apply it.
Gotcha.
And does apply configuration drop calls?
Apply configuration does not drop calls, no.
You guys, we noticed there's, like if you wanted a help or a search term, there's really no definite, like a dictionary built in if you wanted to do more research. How do you look up terms and, I guess that's my question. Is there going to be a dictionary or some kind of search or help topic button ever built in?
Search specifically for a section that you're trying to configure, you mean?
Just, hey, I want to find out more about any term that's in this GUI. One thing about the Avaya, if you get stuck anywhere, there's a real nice help menu. I don't see a help menu anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's definitely something we can look into.
Okay.
I have a question as far as redundancy. What do you guys recommend as far as hardware redundancy, or let's say, whatever, there's a direct lightning strike, fries the box. Can we have a cold spare immediately on site, swap that out? How's that process work from a hardware standpoint, in addition to transferring whatever programming might still be on the system itself?
Okay, well, that actually would come into our system comes with a 1-year warranty hardware, but with that you can also get up to a 3-year warranty with advanced replacement. And what the advanced replacement does is you will actually have another unit on site within 24 hours. And then the USB ports that you're backing up, that would actually be able to, you just stick that in and it would program for you. So you could have the system, once you have it on site, you could have it up and programmed, in 10 minutes, Rory?
Well, I mean, if you've saved any of your backups, you can just grab one of those backups, restore it, and it's less. I mean, it's too
flash it. So there's no reason we couldn't. If someone could not afford to go down, period, they could put a cold spare on site then, versus advanced replacing it from you. Save them a day.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Can we get the pricing on the 3-year warranty, extended warranty, and does that include the overnight freight?
Yes, it does. But I will actually make sure I get that over to Byron.
Okay.
And have him send it over to you.
Okay. Thank you.
And as far as the call failover, let's say a site did take a direct hit via lightning, we could immediately fail it over to another positron location, correct? So built in on the failover, you just steer that call towards a specific phone number that would ring another PBX positron system.
Sure, yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
And then also we find if most SIP trunk carriers have failover routes, if you'll register it as well.
Yep, that's true too.
Down.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions at this point?
A quick question. What's the life expectancy of one of these boxes?
Rory, that's going to be your call.
The life expectancy. That's a good question.
I personally have not had any of them ever go down on me.
Yeah, I don't.
How many years are we talking about?
I think we're working on 7, if I'm not mistaken.
And you have yet to have a failure?
We've
not
had
a failure. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, because you asked life expectancy. So I mean, it's been, if there's a hardware malfunction or something like that, then we've replaced it immediately. But life expectancy, I don't know. I mean, we haven't had one that has died of quote unquote natural causes. Just from being out there for a long time, I guess.
Are there dual power supplies in the boxes, or is it just a single power supply?
It's a single power supply.
And is it AC from like 100 to 250 volt?
That I'd have to check for you. I'd have to check and get back to you. Sorry, who was this?
This is John.
John.
The reason I'm asking is because my data center uses like 208, and I've blown up equipment in there before, so I'm just curious.
Okay.
Hey, Patrice, more of a marketing question. Will end users, do they have the availability to order direct, or this will be a dealer-only protected item?
This is going to be a dealer only. We're not on anywhere that they can actually call us and order direct.
Okay.
Yeah. We made sure that was, we want to keep our resellers happy.
Yeah, we've just got into deals. AT&T, we do them, it's protected, and then you spend all this time, effort, money, learning, and 9 months later, well, we'll just get it online, and we're like, well, that's harsh.
Yeah, no, we're not actually online. You would actually purchase it through SOTEL.
Correct. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's try and push forward here so we can hopefully hit that 1:30 mark for you guys. All right, so the PBX tab, we have users. In the first section, we did get to see users, so I'll skip right to user templates so you can see how they work. And bear with me, we're going to go through how the user templates are tied into the users and how those user templates are used to control what specific dialing patterns that a user is allowed to dial. Okay, so if we hit the users and we go to 6005, for example, you'll see 6005 only asks for a few pieces of information. Okay, as we saw before, every user only has a couple things we ask for, but it's because we actually have a template that we assign to it. Okay, so this user uses PTS internal. So if we go, now I'm going to start hitting these guys here. As you can see, users and user templates are available, so the subtabs are here too as well, so you don't have to go through the menu every time. Okay, so I'm going to go to user templates. And so PTS internal, that's assigned to our 6005 guy. So if we go into PTS internal, you can see all these configuration configuration is applied to that user and to any user that is using this template. So codecs, audio, and video, music on hold, whether it's a remote extension or not. So that's what I mentioned. Any remote user will use the PTS external template that we have, which will have yes over here. Otherwise, you can see here they're also tied into our outgoing call rules. Okay, so PTS outgoing call rules uses, outgoing call rules for PTS internal uses PTS default for outgoing call rules. So if we go to call handling and outgoing call rules, see PTS default here. All right. So if we click PTS default rules, we'll see they have all these dial patterns that are available to them. So 6005 uses the PTS internal template, and that PTS internal template has the outgoing call rules PTS default. Okay, so those are just the names of them. You can name them whatever you want so that it's not confusing. Those are just the names. Okay, so that 6005 guy is allowed to dial any of these patterns here. So if you want these patterns, actually, we've placed these patterns by default so that they can pretty much dial anything. So if you want them to be, if you want to restrict them to, let's say, local numbers, let's add a pattern. And no worries if you don't know how to, if you're not familiar with patterns, we have a pattern generator here, so it's very easy. So as we said in our example, we want to limit them to local calls only. So locally here, my area code is 514. So the number will start with 514. It'll be followed by 7 digits. Generate. So it generates that pattern for me. Okay. So, and I'll say the description is local calls. You can you can place in your caller ID name and number there, and then how you want him to go out. So you want him to go out analog lines or the BabyTel trunk we created, and you can also put failovers as well. And if the call fails, you can place a message here. So all these messages here are just default messages. Otherwise, you can hit *95 and record a message. But I'll go over that shortly. But that recording, that custom recording, will be available here as well. But let's just take a default recording we offer and say, please try again later, if it fails. Okay, so let me delete all these other rules here, because you can do that. I mean, like I said, these rules pretty much allow them to dial anything they want. Okay, so now that we've started creating our own rules, if that's what, if you'd like to limit them, that's what you can do. Okay, so now essentially what we did, 6005 uses PTS internal template. Okay, so the PTS internal template uses the PTS default call rules, and the PTS default call rules, we just created our own rules, and we said the only rule he's going to have to follow is dialing local numbers. Otherwise, it'll fail. The call fails, and it'll go to that recording. Okay, so outgoing call rules, PTS default, local calls. Okay, and also if we back out here, you can see FXS line has their set of rules, and then PTS default external, so that's for the external user template, has rules also. This guy will have similar rules too. Okay, so that's how we control, that's how we give you control of how you want users, or what ability you want to give to the users to be able to call long distance, not call long distance, local calls only, specific long distance numbers for, a customer of yours has a user there that deals specifically with 2 clients, but otherwise only dials local numbers. Well, you can add those area codes as well, so that they'd be able to dial in those area codes too, as an example. So just a way to give you to be able to limit any user you want using the user templates. Okay. Next section here is the phone provisioning section. So, if you recall, I mentioned that you'd be able to tweak after you've provisioned the phone and you're outside of the wizard. Now we're in the administrator's login. We can actually tweak our previously provisioned phone. So if you hit configure here, you can see all the line keys are, as I mentioned earlier, configured already with more commonly used features we have. So like a speed dial to voicemail, starting and stopping a recording. So if you want to record a call, your second key will start it, third key will stop it. A call pickup, a desk page, our call park, and then the park rooms that we've parked those calls. This is BLF to monitor those rooms, the first 4 rooms. So you can actually, you can change that up to whatever feature you want, and tweak it from here. Now, just to mention these values here, going forward, we're looking to change it with drop-down boxes as well, so that actually, if you select BLF, for example, then only specific, things like extensions can be available for BLF, so we'd have a drop-down of all the extensions available for BLF here. So we're looking to change the values here to make it a little more user-friendly, but otherwise these values can be found in our manual and how to place a specific value there. Otherwise, you can also change the phone template. So if you recall, I also said if you know that you're going to be registering another, we did a Yealink T28. So if you know you're going to be registering another T28, you can actually add another template here and create a new default template for the T28 with your own configuration in those 10 buttons on the side and 6 at the top, for that matter. And even to simplify it, you can copy one and then just change a few things if you like. Okay, so we have quite a bit of coverage as it stands now, and as I mentioned before, we're still looking to add Polycom. Is what we're working on at the moment, but we're still looking to add as well. Next section here is the trunks lines. So we got to see this as well. Here's the default analog trunk, and then here's that BabyTel trunk we created. You can continue to create more if you like. If you want to add another trunk, you can do so, or you can edit the existing. But somebody had a question about creating your own drop-down option, which you can do. It's the provider template here, so I'll just show you. Obviously, you'd have to have all the provider's information, or all the information you need to connect with that trunk. So let's say we put test trunk here. You plugged in all that information. Now when we're going to create a new trunk, we add, it's actually available in the drop-down list now. Okay, I know it was in regards to SOTEL, but which we did add coverage for, but it's available there. If anybody else would like to add another provider that's not available just yet, they can still do so. Okay. So the next section here is incoming call features. Incoming call features, I'll cover them all here. I'll start with IVR menus. Obviously, IVR menus, we can go very in-depth. I'm not going to do that for today, but again, if you'd like to know specifically more about specific options that are in the IVR, we have application notes that'll cover that as well. And if ever, if ever you're going through an IVR and you want some help, or you're just, playing around with it and you want to know how to do any of them, or you need to walk through any IVR, always feel free to call the support team. We'll be glad to go through one with you. And that goes for anything, really. Okay, so if you recall, I said the sample IVR has, we have something here by default called the sample IVR, and it has some specific steps here that are kind of, it's kind of what we see when you call into a phone system, well, a basic one. So the idea was to work off of this one, okay? And I'll work off of this one so I can show you what we mean by that. So as it stands now, what happens is it answers, it waits 2 seconds, okay, and then it plays a background of whatever recorded message that you've selected here. Now, you can either play a background or use a playback. Now, the background will actually listen for key presses. So if in your message you said, like, if you started to say, for this, press this, for that, press that, and they wanted to interrupt and just go right for the first option, this gives them the ability to do so by using background. Otherwise, playback, they'd actually have to listen to the entire message, and then they'd have the opportunity with the next step, which is a wait extend.
Hey, Rory, quick question.
Sure.
If you have, like, professional WAV files recorded, do you have to convert that to GSM, or can you just import that right there?
You'll have to convert them to GSM.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. But also the other option you have is you can record custom messages using *95 with any registered phone. So I'll do one right now, so we'll be able to see here.
Please record the message after the beep and end the message by pressing the # sign.
Welcome to Positron. For support, press 1. For sales, press 2. Okay, so I just recorded something simple there. So you'll find that recording in the Sound Manager, in the IVR tab here. So it's the extension that you recorded from and then a timestamp after. So if we just rename it here and just call it Welcome Positron. Okay, and then if we go back to our IVR menu, you'll see that it's available there for us to select. Welcome to Positron. Okay, so that's an option as well.
Can you import a GSM file into it somehow then?
Yep, you can import as well. We had that question, but you'll just have to convert them first. You'll have to convert any, like if they're not GSM, that is, you'll have to convert it like from WAV or whatever.
I know you can convert it. I know you convert it to a GSM file, but how do you import that into the system?
The WAV file or GSM?
GSM file.
Yeah, if you go to Sound Manager here and back to the IVR section, and you can see you can browse and upload. Okay, so you just upload them here, and once you see they're visible in this table, they'll be available anywhere in the system that uses recordings. So we have a lot of other features besides the IVR that uses recordings. They'll be available for those as well. Okay. Okay, so after that background, let's say we select that recording I put, which was Welcome to Positron. For support, press 1. For sales, press 2. And we have a wait extend. So a wait extend, again, listens for key presses with the extend for 1 second. If it's a simple wait, then you actually have to wait for that second. It does not listen for key presses. Okay, and then the second message here is one of the default messages. It says if you know the extension of the party you wish to reach, dial it now. Another way to extend it, 3 seconds. Again, we say if you know the extension of the party you wish to reach, dial it now. Another 3 seconds. We give them another 3 seconds. Otherwise, we hang up the call. Now, this is what we mean by tweaking from here. You obviously don't want to hang up. So now you can do something different. You can say, maybe you can go to the name directory, or you can even go to an extension and send them off to the operator. You know, maybe they don't know the extension, so you send them off to an operator. Okay, so now since we've said for support press 1, now we'll have to branch off to the 1 menu. So they pressed 1. So what needs to happen is, let's say we go to the extension and we go to the support ring group, right? Because we said in the main menu here, for support press 1. So they press 1. It goes to extension support ring group, so it rings the ring group directly. And then we said for sales press 2. So in 2 we can say, let's say we have one person in the sales team on this side here. We can say go to extension, and let's say maybe it's one of these default users here that we have. Okay, you can also send it to a queue. A queue is a possibility as well. So you can send it to a call queue. There's all kinds of different things you can do. Okay. So especially for, a support team, maybe a queue might be a good idea as well. All right. Now we have time frames here. Now they work with the IVR, so we're going to come back to the IVR in a second so I can show you how the time frames work. Let's say we hit time frames here. As you can see, we have 3 here by default. We have the open time frame, Christmas and New Year's. Christmas and New Year's being the obvious date. But the open is basically a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and it's a permanent time frame. There's also an on-demand time frame. I'll go through what that is as well. Let's stick with permanent for now. So open, right? So if we go back to the IVR menu, and we go to time-based rule, and we're going to use, see, we have the open Christmas and New Year. We're going to use the open one. If you bear with me for a second, I just have to create the label. Now what a label does is it allows you to mark a specific location in your IVR. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Open. Okay. Now let's push these up the list. And then push this up as well. Bear with me, it's just going to take a moment. And then one more. Let's say we go to voicemail if it's during closed hours. All right. So what we did here is the following. As soon as the phone's answered, it has to go through a rule. Okay? That rule is open, so that means it has to follow Monday to Friday or 9 to 5. If it follows, or if it falls under open hours, it'll go to the sample IVR. So we're in the sample IVR. It'll go to the main menu. So we're in the main menu, and it'll go to the open label. So that's what I meant by a marker inside an IVR. So here's the open label. Okay. So it falls under open hours, skips right to the open label, and it executes every step below. Let's say it falls on a Saturday. So the phone answers, goes right to the rule. Oh, it's actually closed. So we're just going to skip right next to the right next to the next step and leave a voicemail for the operator. Okay, so as soon as the phone's answered, it has to go through this rule. If it passes this rule, or if it falls under this rule, then we'll skip to wherever this location is. So this is where that location is. Otherwise, it doesn't follow that rule, meaning it's closed, goes right to the next step, which is leave a voicemail. Okay, so that's how the time frames work with our IVR. So now if we're talking on demand, one example I like to use is, let's say we have an operator and he or she has different lunch hours every day. Sometimes they'll leave at 12 or 1 or whatever, depending on when it's busy. They can actually activate this time-based rule so that, yes, it'll be here, but it's only active when they activate it. Okay, so if I go back to time frames, I'll show you what that means. If I want to keep these exact same rules, and I just put it to, sorry, if I want to just put it to on-demand rules, I just select on-demand rules and put an extension there. So let's say he or she dials 7000. The password is 1234. I save it. So now that open time frame, you should probably rename that too. You can say whatever you want. Maybe on demand time frame. Right. And then now what happens is when he or she goes out, oops, I didn't save what I had there previously, but if you recall, I had it right below wait here, so I'm going to replace wait, but assuming wait was still there, go to time-based rule, and the operator will have that there. Okay, so they'll be able to set it on demand, so anytime they leave the office, it'll go right to their voicemail like we had configured. Otherwise, if it's off, it'll just follow down the list. All right, so that's how the time-based rules work. We have a lot of other options here that are available to you. We're running a little behind, so I'm not going to cover them all. But again, we do have an application node that covers every single one of these rules and how to use them. And if ever you want to give the support team a ring, we'll be glad to walk you through a couple, or as many as you want, as a matter of fact. And but I do say a couple because once you've done a couple, it gets much simpler from there. And you can actually whiz through these pretty quickly once you've done one or two. All right, so let's move on to the parking page here. So you want to, excuse me. Sorry, if you want to set up a parking page, specify the extension, the name, a message here. So the welcome message. If you remember, I said any recording that you do with Star 95 will be available for all our features that we have them for. So if you want to record a new one, you can do so using Star 95. It'll be available here. A park message, so while they're in park, if you want to play a message. A park time, and then the timeout extension. So it's based on this specified park time in seconds. If it times out, it'll go to this extension. So maybe you want to send them to the operator or something so they can get their call, rerouted and taken care of immediately, or maybe a call queue, whatever you want. Next section is queues here. Now, call queues has many options that you can use. I'll go through them here with you, but let's say this is the I don't know, we had a support ring group, so let's say this is hardware support. Okay, and we have different strategies. We have round robin, ring all the agents, ring the agent with the least recent calls, the fewest calls, random, round robin with memory, so we have different strategies you can use on ringing the agents. Pickup announcements. So again, you can star 95 and you can play whatever you want. You can upload whatever you like. Maximum callers. So if you have 0, it's unlimited callers that can enter the queue. Otherwise, it's whatever you specify. If a key is pressed in the queue, you can send them somewhere. So if you have another IVR that you've created, that'll also be visible here. So maybe you want to create another IVR specifically for if they press a key inside this queue. You know, you want to take care and deal with the call using that IVR. You can do that. Join if you want to allow anybody to join when it's empty or leave when it's empty. Ringing each agent. This is specified in seconds. Wait time between agents. So this is it's not a lot of wait time. If you want to add some, you can do that there too. Wrap up times. So it's the amount of time between calls. Ring when on a call. So you can even give the system the option to ring agents while they're already on a call, so they'll actually have to answer the other line. Not always used, but available. Report the hold time, so that'll mention how long the caller's been on hold for. Play in the queue, so we have default music on hold here that you can play. You can use the audio in, so we have an audio in port. Maybe you plugged in an iPod and you have music playing, or even maybe a custom company recording that has promotions and that can also play. So that's an option as well. Announcing the hold time, so you can announce the hold time to the person on hold, and you can also announce the position. And then again, on the call times, this is the amount of time when the call time's out, and it'll go to an IVR.
So, quick question: Do you have users who are using this as a true call center application?
If we have people that use the call queues, you mean?
Yeah, I mean that use this this system, the Positron, as a call center application. It looks more robust than I thought it would be.
Yeah, we do. And even I was going to go back to here. You'll be able to see the status of queues. So you'll be able to see any queues that have any late agents logged into those queues and the status of the call. It's not live, but it auto refreshes every 10 seconds. So you'll be able to see any status of any queue and agents logged into them in this section here. So but to answer your question, yeah, we definitely have people that use the call queues, and they use this in that sense, yeah, as a call center app.
Thank you.
So that's it for queues. DISA, it stands for Direct Inward System Access. Sorry. So if you're to add something here, basically, I'll just give you a quick example. Let's say this is my number. Obviously, it's not. So let's say this is my cell phone number, and I'm an agent that's that's traveling, and I want to make a call. I want to make a long distance call, but I want to use my cell phone. So what I can do is, let's say I save that information, and the DISA options here, you can see the wait time is 60 seconds. Let's put it down to 10. So what happens is I can call into the phone system, and once I call into the phone system, depending on how you've set it up, like you can set it up with a DID, so you call a specific DID, it goes right to the DISA feature. You can put it in an IVR. Whichever way depending on the way you've set it up, however you get to the DISA feature, what will happen is if I'm on the road and I'm calling, I call into the system, the DISA feature will say, okay, what's your password? I'll plug in 1234, I'll hang up, and in 10 seconds, it'll call back my cell phone and give me dial tone, so I'll be able to dial out of the phone system. So, so what it does is, once it hangs up the call, it'll verify your caller ID, make sure it has an entry for that caller ID. So that caller ID has password 1234, it verifies that information, calls you back in the time you specified here, and gives you dial tone from the phone system that you'll be able to dial from your cell phone. All right. So that's that feature. Ring groups we did get to cover.
Rory.
Yeah?
Sorry, quick question. I know that in many cases when you call it a toll-free number from a cell phone, your cell phone number is not carried over. How would you go around that for using the DISA?
If you dial a toll-free number.
Yeah, like for instance, if I'm, let's say I'm outside of the city and I want to make a long-distance call to, say, China, and I don't want to use my cell phone to do so.
Okay.
So I'd be calling the toll-free number to call the office, and I want the office lines to call me back so I can, get the dial tone and dial out to China. If my cell phone is not recognized as a user, is there any way of going around that?
It'll definitely have to verify by caller ID. It starts by verifying with caller ID.
I see. So there's no way of setting it up where you have a PIN number, and then when you call in, you use your PIN number, then it recognizes the PIN number and it calls you back, type of thing?
No, it'll specify either by caller ID alone, or it'll check by caller ID alone, or it'll check by caller ID and then the password specified with that caller ID.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
No problem. So ring groups was the next section. We got to see ring groups already. If you want to edit the existing or add another here, we can. No problem. So yeah, like I mentioned before, all those things that we configured in the wizard are there for the administrator and then some. So it's all available here. Call handling, again, we got to see the incoming and outgoing call rules in the wizard, but there's a little more to them inside the administrator's login, as you saw when I was explaining here, and how they're connected to the user templates and the users themselves, and giving you a form of control. The incoming call rules, those, however, are still pretty straightforward. The name, and then specify the trunk you're using, and then how you're directing the call. So for the analog, all the calls we sent to the support ring group, if you recall. And the same thing for the incoming BabyTel, we sent it to the sample IVR, which is extension 6000. Okay. Otherwise, the call accounting here, if you recall, I said this is somewhere where you can add some custom sections to the CDR. Okay, so you see we have a message here at the top. Make sure you enable it in the settings before you use it. So we'll just go enable that. Call handling at the bottom here. Save, and we'll just go back there quickly. Okay, so now we can add one. So I'll give you an example of how we can use this here. You can have up to 3 extra layers or sections. So we'll say 2 in our example, okay? Let's say when they're about to dial out, you can put, and by the way, it's all by greeting here. So again, you want to put, you want to use a *95. My first question would be, what department do you work for? Okay, so let's say, we'll just say W for what department. I'm not gonna waste any time and re-record a new message. So we'll just use that one, and when we add a code, we'll say the code is 556, and that is the support department. Okay. So, and then you can add all the departments here. Okay, and then back, and then here I'll say in the second W here for what is your employee ID. So I'll say my employee ID is something like that, and then my name. Okay, so you add all the employees and their employee IDs. So basically what will happen now is I'll go to make an outgoing call. Just before I make the outgoing call, it'll say what department do I work for. I punch it in. What's my employee ID? I punch it in. So that later on in the CDR, you'll see here, added information for not only what you see here, but what department did it come from, and from what employee ID. Okay, so that's just an example. You can put whatever you want. As you can see, you can really, it is very much open to whatever you want to put here. Okay, so that's available. Just a few more things here, and then we'll cover the user's login. The user's login's not there's not too much there, and then we'll wrap it up. So conference bridge, we have 2 conference bridges here by default. As you can see, there's 2 different pins here, one for the administrator, one for users. So they obviously have a few different options available to them, like booting users and such. The music on hold here is what's played. If there happens to be nobody in conference, there'll be music on hold there played until a second participant joins. Announce callers. So when a participant is joining, you have the option of announcing them. So if you select announcing here, announce callers, what will happen is, let's say I'm calling in, it'll say who's calling, I'll record my name, and when I come in, it'll say Rory's coming in, with my voice. It'll just play back the recording. Okay, so that's...
How big is the conference bridge?
How big? You mean how many participants can join?
How many parties?
You can have as many join as you like. It's not limited.
Provided you have enough PSTNs, right?
Yeah.
Now, quick question for you: when the caller calls in, there's a PIN code and then there's an administrator PIN code.
Yep.
So the administrator punches in his code, and a teleconferencer will punch in his PIN code.
That's right.
Now, is there a limit on how many PIN codes you can create for a conference? Or
yeah, it's one PIN code. So every participant will use that one PIN code, except for the administrator will use, the one below. And
okay.
He'll have different things he can do in the conference.
So correct me if I'm wrong. If the administrator doesn't punch in, the teleconference doesn't take place?
No, the teleconference will still take place. There just won't be an administrator. So, there won't be anybody there that can boot a user, or there's like 1 or 2 other features that an administrator has access to doing.
Okay, like.
Hey, Rory. With the if you've got a 15 concurrent call system and you've got 10 people in the conference, does that go against those channels? So there would only be 5 more availability for people to make calls and get calls?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So that's why we, if you were to go to add a third conference here, and I don't know, let's say, just for example, test, it'll say maximum 2 conferences allowed. So that's not the case. You can add another one, but it's a form of control we're trying to give you. So if you go to the PBX settings, here, and you can see you have maximum of 40 users and 2 conference rooms. Now you can change that. Like if you know you're not going to use those, all 3 or 4, or however many conferences you decide to make are not going to be used simultaneously, then obviously it's not going to hit your concurrent calls, so that's not an issue. But if you know they might, then limiting the users and conference rooms are 2 forms of control we try to give you to try to keep those concurrent calls to where they should be.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem.
This system doesn't have video conferencing, right?
This system has point-to-point video, so you can have a video call. But the G124V, like this is a G124, but the V model does have video conferencing.
Okay. And the number of conferences what's the maximum? Video conferences I'm talking about. On the V version.
On the V version, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. So I'm going to have to get back to you.
Okay. Tasso,
okay, number of...
And if you can give me the total number of video conferences on the 600 model as well.
You want to, I'm sorry, what was that question?
Yeah, if you can give me the maximum number of video conferences on the 600 model as well, the G600, I believe it's called.
That should be the. Is Rory looking that up? Because that's actually 12.
I see.
Correct, Rory?
I'm sorry?
The maximum number of the full video conferencing is 12. Even on the G600B, correct?
I believe so. That's what I'm looking at the moment. I'm just trying to. I was going to continue through this and then answer after, but I believe it's.
Okay, I do apologize.
No
okay,
worries.
I
just didn't want to give him an answer in case I was incorrect.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I'll let you go back.
So I'll let you know for sure, Tasso.
Thank you.
And then we had remote offices here, so if you want to edit an existing or add another, you can do so right here. The sound manager, we didn't get to cover that. So here's where you can upload some more music on hold. We have this one here by default, but you can add more by simply browsing and uploading. The IVR section we did get to see. This is where our custom recordings will show up. And also you can upload custom recordings here as well.
Hey, Rory, quick question on that. Can you play different music for different trunks, for different lines?
Yep. Anything that you have here, anything that you upload here will be available in the drop-down list.
Yep.
Is there a default music on hold?
Yes.
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 Now, as far as uploading other music, is there a maximum as far as the
I believe it's 50 files.
50 music files.
Yeah.
And how big of a file are we talking about in each case?
Like an average, your average song file.
Okay, so it'd be one song per file?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Rory?
Yeah.
If you're running like 2 or 3 different companies off one box and you've got different music for different trunks, what about different users when they go put somebody on hold? How would they pick the right music for the right company? Is that actionable as well?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
All right, so let's say you got XYZ company on one trunk, and I work for XYZ company, and I put somebody on hold. Will that play the XYZ greeting, or will that play another company's greeting? How do you keep the company separate on music on hold for users?
Well, at a user level, you'll see. Sorry, in the user template, you'll see that it has the music on hold that you can specify here. And
Oh,
this
okay,
is
so you
just
pick
the
it there.
default
Okay,
music on hold.
gotcha. Or if you had something custom, it would show up right there.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
So you can actually run multiple companies off of one box?
You can. Obviously, you'd probably want to separate the extensions. Like make them very, away from the other, maybe 7,000s and 2,000s or something, so there's never a mix-up. But
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
But you can do that. But also keeping in mind that the concurrent calls don't change. So if you do happen to add, 2 companies to one G124, for example, they'd have to be smaller, right?
Yeah, okay, sure, of course, that makes sense. So, but there's no way to partition, like do a tenant partition, so that company 1 couldn't accidentally call company 2. It's just everything's in there, all the extensions are in there, so anyone can dial any extension. But like you say, you'd want to make one company like the 200s and another company the 700s, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to keep away from them.
Okay, great, thank you.
No problem. So we're in the Sound Manager here. So the next tab was the language. So if you want to add the other supported languages, you can do so by again just going to our partner portal here. So same section as the firmware. They're both in the same sections. So I've already downloaded French. So if you download here, you'll see it comes as a I believe it's a zip, and then once you've unzipped it once, you don't have to touch it from there. It'll be a tar.gz. Just leave it as is. Browse for it, and it'll look exactly like this. Positron PBX Sounds FR for French, or ES for Spanish. 01.tar.gz. Open, upload. It'll be there in a matter of seconds, and then it's available to you to choose from. So how you can choose it is at a user level. So again, if you choose it as a user level, it'll be simply for the voicemail prompts. Okay, so you see it's available here. And you can select it at a global level. So if you want the entire phone system to be French, for example, you can do that as well here in the phone settings, or PBX settings, sorry. All right. So that's it for the language section here, but the other sub-tab was music on hold. See at music on hold here, you can see we have 2 by default. We have that's just a regular music file, and then we have default audio in. Okay, so the source is the audio in. So maybe, as I mentioned before, maybe you plug in an iPod, or if it's next to a PC, maybe you can stream internet radio if you want. So you have a couple options that are available. So the next, just before we hit the PBX settings here, well, there's just one last feature. It's a pretty simple feature. If you have a number that's called on a regular basis by the company, I don't know, let's say it's Walmart, for example, okay, and they have a 1866 number that your company is always dialing. I don't even know if that was the right amount of numbers. Right, and they're dialing it all the time. Well, this is an easy way to create kind of like sort of a speed dial kind of thing. So 500 extension will actually dial out the Walmart's full external number. Okay, so basically it's just it's an easy way to make a phone book for the company and to map them to extension numbers so that they're easier to remember.
Hey, Rory?
Yep.
We have a lot of customers in Denver here that are still coming off analog lines, and we use that feature a lot for switch hook transfer. It's like a flash. Can you build these phone books where if the receptionist comes in, oh, hold on, let me transfer you. Can you put some kind of switch hook flash in that string so people don't have to redial? They can just say, okay, 501, and that dials Walmart or customer service, where it simulates a like a Centrix transfer.
Yeah, if they were to do a hold on. So in your example, you're saying that the operator gets the call, they want to transfer them right away to this Walmart number, for example, right?
Right, or cell phone numbers, or a lot of guys are mobile. Instead of putting them in their voicemail, the sales guys, hey, if I get a call from Frank, I want to talk to him. So instead of like sending them to their phone that may or may not be forwarded, she could just say, hold on, hit 501, like a BIN number, and inside 501 could be his cell number. What triggers that to send it out to him?
Yeah, you can do that. The system will automatically call the whatever's mapped to that extension. It'll call that.
So would you do it to his extension, or what if it's right to his cell phone?
Yeah, you can map the extension to a cell phone number as well. The way how this feature works is you map any extension number to an external number.
Gotcha.
The other thing you can do is we have, we're hitting PBX settings now anyway, so in the call handling, we have a cell phone prefix here, 7, okay? So if you happen to know you want to transfer it to somebody's cell phone number, you don't know that cell phone number by heart, what you can do is, let's say we know it's the operator we want to send it to. So all you have to do is prefix in the 7 with 6005, and it'll actually dial out to their cell phone number right away. So that's why at the beginning when we're asking the user information, we ask for the cell phone number as well, because this feature ties into that. So without anybody actually knowing what your cell phone number is, they can at least get a hold of you and dial it that way.
Okay, so in that bin you would do 500, and that would be like *7 and his extension, and if his cell phone's entered, it'll just go right out that way.
If you put the prefix, yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
What caller ID will show on the recipient on a cell phone? Let's say caller A calls into and the receptionist answers, and the person says, "I'd like to speak to so and so," and the receptionist dials or transfers to *7 and the person's extension. What caller ID will appear on the person's cell phone? Will it be the PSTN of the PBX, or will it be the actual call?
It depends what kind of transfer you do. So if you do a warm transfer will actually show, let's say it's the operator that received the call and that's giving it out.
Hello?
It'll be his or her caller ID that'll show because they're calling in that extension saying, hey, I have so-and-so on the line for you. And then they can take it or not take it. But a blind transfer will actually just pass on the caller ID because you're just passing on the call.
Okay.
Okay. So just before I hit all the other call handlings there. Sorry, did somebody say something? No? Okay. So the general tab in the PBX settings here, I did mention what the maximum user and conference room numbers were for. And again, this is to specify what the global language of your phone system will be. So if you want to add support for a different language, you can just hit up our our partner portal and grab the support for whatever language you prefer. Is your system name if you want it to be if you want to specify something different, and your country settings. So for call handling, there's a lot of features here that we have, and some of them we haven't even specified anything there by default, so we leave them open for you to specify. I'll go through what they are, but obviously this is a lot of features to remember. So for any user to remember all these features and how to what to press to use them, it can get to be a lot. But obviously we want them to take advantage of them. So what we've done is when a user logs into his or her own extension, his or her own GUI using their extension as their login, which I'll show you, they'll have actually a cheat sheet. So, and that cheat sheet will show all this information here. So, if ever the administrator changes, like, okay, no, a blind transfer is actually going to be, #8 now going forward. So now when the user's trying to use #1, it's not working. They log in, they say, oh, okay, the administrator changed it to, #8. So now I have to do #8 for blind transfers. I mean, blind transfer is probably not a great example because it's not something you'd want to change, but if ever any of the features he changes here, it'll be visible to them on their sheet. It'll be updated as the administrator updates it. So it'll show what it is actually at that time. So we'll get to see that in a sec. So you have the blind transfer, a warm transfer, a pickup. So if you a call pickup, if you want to pick up a call that you might be monitoring, a voicemail extension. So this is for internal. If you want to reach it, this is remotely. So if you dial in, the difference would be this one will ask you what voicemail box, so you'll have to put your extension. IP address extension. So this is if you want to, believe it or not, some people have forgotten what the IP address of their phone systems are. So this feature actually allows you to plug in an analog phone into FXS port 1, and you can specify an extension here if you decide you want to have the ability to use it, just in case. Let's say it's 9000. So you dial 9000 with your analog phone. It'll ask you for the password. The password is just 123456789 by default, and that'll play back to what your IP address is of your phone system. Okay, so instead of using a sniffer, you can simply do that. So we covered the Star95. It's for custom recordings. Now the SPY extension here, what this is let's say for example you have the president wants to listen in on a call that the operator's taking. It's an important customer. They want to listen to how he or she's treated. So what they can do is they dial the they dial the SPY extension. Let's say it's 700. They enter the password. They'll be asked, okay, what extension? They'll dial the extension 6005, and then they'll be able to listen in on the call without being heard. Now, obviously, for legal purposes, you want to mention this call may be monitored or recorded before anything like that would be allowed legally, but the feature's there for you. Audio in extension. So this is if you want to listen to what's being played on the audio in. So you, with any phone, you can listen. You can listen into what's being played in the audio in. Just trying to make sure your iPod's playing and run out of batteries, something like that. Parking extension. So this is the extension you'll park a call in. So you get a call, press 700. It'll park a call into any of the rooms from 701 to 720, and it'll announce it to you, like park room 703. So you'll know that the person you just parked is in park room 703, and then you can, transfer the call Parking time, so this is the amount of time in seconds it's parked for. Cell phone prefix that I explained. Voicemail prefix is exactly the same. If you want to, instead of reach the user's extension, you want to reach their voicemail right away. So let's say it's the operator. We just dial 8 as a prefix beforehand, so 8 6005, it'll skip right to their voicemail. And then here the BLF pickup prefix is just if you're monitoring a BLF, if you want to be able to pick up that call, you just use that, and you'll be able to pick up any call you're monitoring with the BLF feature. So call accounting, we had enabled that before to be able to use a feature. That's what the checkbox is for here. All right, so that's it for the PBX settings. In the call handling section, we have paging here, which is multicast paging. So all these addresses should be good. You should not have to change those. But all these zones are for whatever you decide to make them. This will page every single phone that's auto provisioned. Otherwise, you can group these as you like. I'll show you how that works. Let's say we go to the phone that we provisioned already. Hit edit. As you can see here, he or she can be part of any group. Okay, so let's say this is one guy that's part of the support team. You can say star 81 is going to be the support team, and you save this and you go to any of the other users that are part of the support team. So then that way, when the when the manager wants to reach the support team, dial star 81. It multicast pages that support team, and that's how you can group them together. You have SIP settings here, so like SIP video, just basic SIP settings, so like trunk registration timer, SIP video if you want to enable point-to-point calling, the call bit rate, so you have you can select what you want, and different settings like that. Otherwise, the last two are voicemail and recordings. Voicemail here, you have maximum greeting time, so amount of time you're giving the user to record. Minimum message time, so if the message is being recording, it's less than 1 second, it'll be deleted automatically because obviously they didn't record anything. Maximum message time, so they'll be allowed to record a message up to 60 seconds, and then maximum amount of messages, they'll be able to have up to 15 messages before their mailbox will be full. Exit on key press, so if in your recording you mention if this is an emergency, please press 0, and then maybe it routes the call to the operator. The operator will deal with the call immediately, or and you can, similar to that, you can record another one saying like, or if you want to reach me directly, press star, and then you can go out the outgoing line group BabyTel to a specific phone number specified here. Okay, maybe you can put your cell phone number. All right, and then allow users to review. This will allow the user to review their recording and either re-record or delete it, whatever they like to do. Same message in caller ID and same message duration. When I call in to listen to my voicemail, it'll say so-and-so called you, and this is how long their message is for, and then it'll play it. And when I say so-and-so, I mean like it'll specify the caller ID. Send messages by email only, so when you select that, that'll mean that any of your messages that come through, you'll get a notification saying, hey, you got, you'll get an email notification saying, hey, you got a voicemail, and it'll also attach and say, here it is. And if this is selected, it means it will not be available on your phone, so it'll be only available by email. Okay. However, if you don't select that, but you have attached recording, that means it'll go to the phone and it'll come to you via email and it'll be attached in the recording. Well, let's say you deselect that, you'll still get an email notification saying, hey, you have a voicemail waiting, but you will not have the attachment. So you'll have to, it's just a notification kind of thing where you'll have to go to the phone and check it out. So that's it for the voicemail. The recordings, pretty straightforward. We do on-demand recordings, so you'll have to use key presses to start and stop the recording. So #8 to start it, #9 to stop it. All right, so that pretty much covers the administrator's login. So if we log out here, I'd like to go through with you guys the user's login. So how you log in as a user is you put the extension number as the login ID, and then the password is 1234 by default. Okay, so as soon as he or she logs in, they can change that right away if they like. Excuse me. So we'll go to the settings tab right away, and I'll show you this right here. Okay. So as you can see, it's the voicemail password that doubles as the login password. Okay. So whatever they use for their voicemail password, they'll also use to log into their UI. Okay, so that's how they can change that right away. So here's that cheat sheet I was talking about. We call it the hotkeys here. So if you see, they'll have access to how to use any feature, and anytime anything's changed by the administrator, it'll be visible here. Okay, so they'll know how to use all their features at all times. They also have a status page. Now, our thoughts behind giving them access to the status page was that, maybe the administrator's not in, maybe he's on vacation, maybe he's sick, their phone system can still have an issue with it. So we wanted to give access to some information so that if ever the support team had to help, at least we'd be able to work with somebody and they'd be able to use their own login credentials, so we can get some information there. So you can see whether the trunk is up or not. We can see some networking information. Obviously, if we have no link here, we have a physical. There's a physical issue with one of the lines. Firmware. We can see if maybe there's a bug fix that we've implemented that the system doesn't have yet. Maybe your USB is full, so that's why you can't record any more voicemail. So, we gave some minimal information there that can potentially help us if ever there is an issue with the phone system while the administrator is not around. And in the user table, as you can see, we give information for that user specifically, so whether their phone is registered in that. Okay. So, and also, not only can that user communicate with us, they can also communicate with the administrator, saying like, oh, my phone's not up, and the administrator maybe, on the road or whatever, can ask them, come here, see, whatever, and, so it gives some options there. Voicemail is the next tab here. So they'll see this exactly how they'll have the option, or exactly like the options that'll be if they call into the phone. So what I mean by that is, if they have any messages waiting and they called into the phone, they'd get to hear them. They can move them to different folders, or they can they can view different folders or change folders, and they can forward their calls, forward their voicemails. So you can do exactly the same thing here from their login. Okay, so they can view a specific folder, they can listen to specific messages, so if there's a message here, they can play it right from here. And then they can move it to a different folder, or if the message is not for me, so let me forward it out to whoever it goes to, they can forward it to any user that's specified in the system. Okay, so that's it for voicemail. Recordings, as I mentioned, the users see it a little differently, so it's a little more user friendly. They'll see all their recordings by the date today, and then otherwise you could specify any day you want, and and you'll see any recordings on that day. So you'll be able
Hey, Rory?
to delete. Yeah.
Can you set up a master, like a group mailbox, like for a broadcast message, like for a owner? Hey, we've got a meeting coming up, that kind of thing. Like a email or a voicemail blast to all users.
Not from our phone system, no.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Okay. All right.
So you can delete specific entries. You can delete by date, so delete an entire date or delete all of them together. If you've checked them all, none of them you'd like to keep. All right, so last section here is settings, and then we'll wrap it up with any questions or if Patrice would like to add anything. So, so here's the password I had mentioned here, and so right below it here, they can add or edit an existing email address if it's changed. So obviously important for voicemail to email and other features. Voicemail time zone. So if ever they're traveling, they can change to the time zone they're in, so they get accurate time. Language. So again, you can change for language prompts for voicemail. Ring time, so this is specified in seconds, so how long you want your phone to ring for before it does whatever else. Either go to voicemail, or you can forward a call, or follow me a call. The difference between the two is if you forward a call, it'll just simply forward the call to whatever number you specify here, whether it be an external number or an available extension. If you select ring extension before forwarding, what will happen is it'll ring the extension and then forward to whatever you specified here. And then this is just specifying the amount of ring time before you actually go forward with the forwarding. And then forward external only. This will forward only external calls, so any internal calls will still ring the extension. Okay, and then the difference between a forward and a follow me, the forward will go to one number, whereas the follow me will try one number, then try a second number, and it'll continue to try to quote unquote follow you or find you. So if you click that and you specify the first number, the amount of ring time, specify the second number, the amount of ring time. And then for both features, forward and follow me, if the call is still not answered after all that, you can either, let the call hang up or go to your voicemail box.
Hey, Roy, what would be a good way to set up simultaneous ring your phone and your cell phone at the same time?
You can create a ring group for that.
Just put your extension in that ring group?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Otherwise, if the user would like to do it, I guess the best bet would be to select forward the call, and then forward it to an external number, and specify your cell phone number here, but ring extension before forwarding. So they might not be at the exact same ring at the exact same time, but at least they'd have the option of being able to ring both, so that they can answer it one way or another.
Gotcha.
But otherwise, the administrator can still do it using a ring group.
Thank you.
No problem. So that just about that wraps it up. Patrice, if you'd like to add anything, or if anybody had any other questions, and I thank you for your patience. We had some good questions today, and we went along a little further than we had liked to, but thank you guys for participating.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, because this was really a nice technical training. You guys had a lot of great questions. Now, with that being said, do you guys have any more questions?
First off, thanks, Rory, for your time.
No problem.
I think some gentleman might have brought up on the table, are there like hotel, motel? Do you guys got any packages coming up that, just in general, what's on the drawing board for this going forward?
I think for the hotel motel packages, we have something in the works. Patrice, do you know where we stand with that right now?
I do apologize. Can you repeat that?
Sorry, the hotel motel package they were curious about.
We actually do have something in the works that I will have to go back with Fran to find out, because I know we have a third vendor working on it that actually does work really well with ours, but I think we're trying to find out where the cost is.
Can we also play with that? Sorry, your soft phone console, can we download that and just demo that? Do you have a console with this, for an attendant?
There is on the partner. Is everybody on the partner portal?
No, I'm not a partner yet. So.
And I'm sorry, who just said that?
That's Tasso.
Tasso. Okay, well, we'll definitely I'll get you access to that right after I get off the phone, Tasso.
Great.
And there's actually, what I was going to say, there is a demonstration on the website that shows you for the PC console that you can actually download, and you can play with it.
Oh, okay. And is that for like 30 days, 60 days? I just want to play with it, see what it does.
Yeah, I think it does last for like 30 days.
Okay.
And
if you want to,
it's fun, and it's really easy to just download it, and it'll show up.
And then if you keep it longer, is there a cost with that?
The PC console is the only one that does have a cost with it. For the MSRP on it, it's $350 per PC. But I do have other options. Is this Jack that's asking?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me go ahead and look into my notes, and I can send out some information, and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Because there's other options you can use for that concept.
And then we've been playing with 3CX or Bria soft phones for cell phones. We haven't put any tablets on. Is there any better or any what do you guys recommend for soft phones, if you can recommend?
Both of those are good, actually. If you want to go with video, if you want to go with a video one for like your tablet or whatever, we'd recommend the Polycom, and it's also free, so that's a good one that we use as well.
Gotcha. All right. And then when you set those up, those also has to be triggered for remote users. I think when we were playing around with it, we may have missed that step.
Okay.
Yeah. So those have to be set for remote users.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what else, Dan? There really is. We started playing with WAN addressing on remote phones. You really don't need to do that.
Sorry, I missed that last part. Remote phones.
Yeah, remote phones and WAN addressing. It's really not necessary.
Okay.
No, that was kind of my questions. Do you have to put in the WAN remotely for these phones to dial in or whatever, set up, register?
No, if that's more so if you're using the auto phone provisioning feature to specify how the files are going out to the phone.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Actually, I had a question of my own. I jot down some questions here that I'm going to get back to you guys on. I had one here on the Grand Stream for auto phone provisioning. Who was that? Sorry about that. I didn't get a name.
That was myself, Tasso.
Tasso. Okay. Okay. So I got that one too. Thanks, Tasso.
Thanks. I'll have to leave. I have a previous engagement. So thank you very much for letting me attend. And if you can forward me any information, that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely. Thanks for participating.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if you guys have any questions or any concerns, don't hesitate to call us.
Great. Thank you.
But I'll get some information out there for you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
That's it.